And yeah, him and his wife both came out and spent some time. He did 2 different days because we worked actually Friday with the tree removal and a large of the larger debris. And then we had Saturday more of a lighter cleanup type of crew thing going on. So he was actually out there 2 days helping.
Cool. And there's just sort of related to that is that there's going to be some focus on fixing up the tennis courts that I think Lynn Kellogg is going to hopefully be leading up, and so that sort of will coordinate with that.
Yeah,
There
there is another day or 2 of work that needs to be done. The junipers that are between the basketball court and the tennis court are completely overgrown and are nothing more than a fire hazard pretty much at this point. And that's one of those things where we'll try and set a day and get a few people to show up and help with that. You know, as we move forward, like I said, everything from the bike path towards the main highway is going to be our focus for this spring, and that kind of fits into that area somewhat. So pretty much.
Cool. So moving along, we have the Whitewater Park, which was brought up at the city council, and the decision was made to have more. We need another meeting to talk about it. And I think maybe we should have a couple of meetings and just do Zoom meetings, because that's probably the only way we can get people. And the problem is, as we've learned, you know, we did the last meeting on a Wednesday at 6, which, you know, and it was outside, and we thought, well, that would be the best way to get there. And we actually had a record turnout for a meeting like that, because people just don't show up. But anyway, I think we need another meeting at least.
Steve,
Yeah.
Steve, do you have a board of directors for the Whitewater Park?
Yeah.
Yes, you do?
Yeah.
Okay, I was just curious if there was a core group that, you know, would be attending all the meetings, or if you're just doing, you know, whoever wants to show up.
Well, there isn't a lot of call for the Whitewater board to show up, because we already know. It's sort of, the problem is we have just a lot of misinformation and disinformation, and so I did a presentation to the Central Point Rotary recently. Just took them through a PowerPoint presentation. It takes about 10 minutes or so, and I think, and that, you know, everybody got all excited about that. So I think that's the way to start these meetings. It's just show them the pictures, show them the history, and then you know, just have another meeting, 2 meetings, or whatever they need.
I think having a little resume for your board of directors is a good idea, if you want to present that to people when you're asking for grants or help, you know.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So you have a backing of people that are experienced and dedicated.
Yeah,
I know I would have a hard time going out and just myself presenting a group. I always want backup, you know.
Oh, we've got that. It's just, that's not really the issue. I mean, we're backed by Travel Oregon and Travel Southern Oregon and Travel Medford, and I think the Rotary Club liked it, and we've got, you know, Olympic gold medalists behind us, and the governor behind us. I mean, there's some major players who are, you know, who are on board. It's more, you know, it's people who don't know the history of the river, I don't know. That's my feeling, but I think anyway, the point is, what is a good time to have a meeting that people might actually show up at? And I don't know.
Maybe on a,
Is there-
I know this sounds bizarre and way off base, but most things I say are. How about on a weekend? Is there any way that we can eliminate people's excuse of why I was working or I couldn't make it in time by having something that we could have on a weekend and maybe even have outdoors where so I think a lot of people just simply don't want to Zoom and you know, those who support things can show up and those who don't can stop by and have a voice.
Well,
I don't
Richard,
know.
we actually have the technology, we could do it outside and on Zoom at the same time. Invite.
There you
everybody.
go.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
Outdoor and Zoom.
Oh, yeah. Better.
We could do it Saturday, but it's gonna be 39 degrees. I mean, that's kind of the,
Can I make a point there? If you're gonna be trying to have a good faith effort to invite people, I think planning something on Wednesday for the following Saturday is probably not the best idea. We need to probably plan that out for a couple of weeks and do a robust effort to inform people that it's happening. Otherwise, there's not much point.
Move it out a ways?
Yeah, that's our point.
Yeah, can we move it to like June 15th?
well,
Well, seriously,
I mean,
hopefully this COVID thing will be simmered down. People could gather outside. People could show up that actually are using the parks and have a discussion. I mean, this whole thing is something that started 10 years ago and is going to go on for 10 years. I don't know why we have to try and fit it into the next 10 days, but it gives people time to get their information and things straight and have a meeting that really has some context where we can make some decisions that are fulfilling. I think that's why we keep stuck in this whirlpool is that it's something that's such a long range objective that maybe we're just trying to get, I don't know.
Is it a decision-making meeting or simply an informational meeting? What's the meeting purpose?
well, it's a Parks Commission meeting, so it's not a decision-making meeting. It can't be. So it's basically an information meeting. Part of what happened is we had this came up in July at the city council and the city council decided that there should be another public meeting to discuss this. And that was going to be in August, and then it got pushed off till October or November. We finally had that meeting out on the site and people showed up. Channel 4 News was there, or whatever channel was there. And a bunch of people showed up, and we had the meeting. And then we started the Parks Commission, and the people who were at that meeting decided that meeting wasn't enough and we needed to do another meeting. And there's a point where, I've been having meetings for, Jan can probably remember, at least 8 years. This isn't, the actual park decision was made a long time ago and by the city and has been, we've moved forward, on applying for large state grants from, that were applied for by the city. That was 2016 for a $750,000 grant, but our permits weren't done. This has been delayed. The project has been delayed because we lost the funding from Travel Southern Oregon that would have paid for the permits this year. But, and one of the goals of the city council was to get the permitting done. So these decisions have been made. The question was whether we would pitch this to LA. At this point, the chance of LA agreeing is very small. The advantage of making the pitch is that it really helps us for getting all kinds of funding, because if, we're in the, and maybe maybe for that reason, we just delay it forever and just pretend to be asking. But I actually think it's worth asking the question because one, it sets us up for big grants because it says we're a city that's trying to do something. And two, we might actually succeed, and then we actually would be a city that really did something. It's really, you know, the people who want the meetings are the same people who attend and don't listen to what's said and say other things. So it's kind of frustrating, you know, that's, so I really hate to wait till June, because that just means that I sit in limbo for the next 5 months.
3 weeks out or something, then, you know.
Yeah, I mean, or 2 weeks or whatever, 3 weeks, I don't care, but I would like to have some sort of, you know, agreement that this meeting would actually make a difference, even though it's going to be a meeting where no decision is being made, because it's the Parks Commission. We don't make decisions. We make recommendations, you know? So, you know, I'm frustrated just because I've been dragged through this.
Yep.
And said the same things with the same couple of people a lot of times, and it's just tedious. But you know,
It's tedious listening to it too, Steve.
Yeah.
I mean, I love
Yeah.
you, but it's almost like we need to make a plan of action if we're going to get this off the ground this summer.
Yep.
And that's what I think you should have a meeting about, not making decisions, calling for a plan of action, which in my mind, it would be like a 4 or 5 step plan. First we do this and then we do this, and you know, there's a lot of work to be done. The permitting itself is a big hurdle. I'm sorry, the permitting itself is a big hurdle.
yeah, and the permitting isn't determined by this meeting. I mean, that's already been decided, and it's just we lost our funding, and as soon as the either the funding comes back or I just write the permits myself, I mean, that'll happen. But
So I've got some questions. When you say we around pursuing Los Angeles Olympics, who exactly is we? Is
Well,
that the Whitewater Board? Is it the City of Gold Hill, or is it the Parks Commission? Because I don't really see that as a Parks Commission topic. That's not our charge.
Well, and
So-
I agree with you on that page. I was talking to people this week in regards to the fact that this is actually almost an upcoming events type issue that really deals not with us as the council, or the council is where it should almost be being dealt with, because we're trying to run the parks and move the park itself forward. And this sounds more of an event type dialogue. That's really kind of out of our focus and kind of holding us back from our mission, to be honest.
It seems like it's a bigger topic. We're not a decision-making body. We're a recommendation-making body. So my other question is, when the city council asked for more meetings about the Whitewater Park, who are they asking to meet? The Whitewater Board, the Parks Commission, the general, like what are they asking for? Who do they want to have meet, and what is the topic of conversation? What is the desired outcome? What is the purpose?
I mean, the question is, the real question right now is, do we pitch this to LA? And that was, I mean, because a year ago, the city council got together and said, you know, one of the goals for last year, for 2020, was to get the permitting done for the Whitewater Park. Okay, that was already agreed to by the city. But what, you know, part of the thing that so that was going to happen, except that we lost our funding. And that's the Gold Hill Whitewater Center, which an RV COG lost the funding from Travel Southern Oregon that would have paid the guy to write the permits. So COVID delayed the thing. And there's, now we're still trying to figure that out. But then there's this other question of, do we pitch this to LA to see if we could get the Olympics here? And that's, that's
who is that question for? Is that question for the city, or is that question for the Parks Commission?
Well, I thought it was for the city, but but because, then one of the city councilors, and I think just one, thinks that wanted the Parks Commission to have a meeting about this. And
Okay, so I'm still trying to understand if the last city council meeting, when this conversation about the Whitewater Park started, thank you, Jessica.
Yeah, so, okay, yes, the question to the council is if the city will support the Olympic bid. But before the council makes that decision, they want to hear from everybody in the city, their opinions about the Whitewater Park and the Olympic bid. And the Parks Committee had already promised a forum for everyone to talk. And so at the last meeting on Monday, the council thinks that the Parks Committee should set up this town hall so that everyone can find out everything they ever wanted to know about the Whitewater Park. And then the Parks Committee can get that feedback and then present it to the council on whether or not the citizens of the city support the Olympic bid.
Okay,
Whatever.
that is very helpful. So if that's the case, then what we would need to do is plan a date that's a reasonable amount of time to schedule something like this. We would need to have robust outreach by Facebook, by website, by posting in the newspaper, whatever we need to do to advertise a town hall is to be there. If you're saying they're going to need to have all their questions and whatever other entities are working on this, whether it's, and why, I don't even know, the Water Resources Board or whatever entity it is that's regulating this, that can answer questions, who all needs to be in the room. If what the city council is asking for is for the commission to solicit the community's input about whether or not to pursue LA, then that's a very specific task. And am I interpreting that correctly?
Paige,
Yep.
you've got my exact question. You are breaking it down to this is about an event, and the meeting should be about an event, not about the park. The park already exists. We already know we have a Whitewater Park. It has issues over here. Those are separate. But you're saying that you feel that the meeting should be devoted towards this event, and whether this
She's trying
event
to
is
define
right.
what it sounds like.
I'm not saying anything. I'm trying to understand what the city council is asking for.
It's not just the Olympic thing. That is a part of it. But there's also a part of the population who feels that resculpting the river is something that we should not be doing. And those people want information too. So it's kind of a big, we need a Whitewater town hall where anybody who has anything they've ever wanted to say about it can say it to the people in charge. It's
Okay,
not.
but we also need to have agencies and others there who can speak
I
to that.
agree, because this is a chance for people to come and ask questions. So we should have every agency that has any kind of involvement be there to answer questions. This is an educational event so that people can get answers to their questions.
part of what it's actually premature to bring in the agencies because once we apply for the permit, I mean, the agencies came here years ago to find out about it. They're not in a position to comment on it now because we haven't applied for the permits. So to ask the Army Corps of Engineers or NOAA Fisheries what they think about it is, I mean, they can't say anything because we haven't applied for a permit. During the permitting process, there will be public hearings about modifying the river because nobody's ever done it in a river that has salmon.
So we can't
you know.
even, like LA can't come unless that permitting process is achieved. Is that correct?
Exactly.
So isn't the first step getting the permits before trying to get LA here? Because what's the point in asking LA to come if we don't even have the permit process started?
Well, we have a very good chance of getting the permits, and part of the deal was we thought we'd already have that done, but we lost a year because of COVID. Meanwhile, there is a window of opportunity where if we don't ask LA, I mean, if we don't make that pitch, they'll go, they will continue on a path of just building a course.
And what does it take to make a pitch? Because I mean, my understanding is that you have to have an incredible amount of infrastructure to have to host Olympics, hotels, roads, parking, bathrooms, all kinds of lighting. I mean, it goes on and on and on.
you weren't at the meeting where we went through all this, but, and it's a little annoying because you said you knew already all about it, so you didn't come. But this has all been done that was done on the Ocoee River in Tennessee, which is in the middle of nowhere.
I've been
It's-
there.
You know, this is not this, and we're doing it with the same people who did that one. And, you know, obviously we have to have another meeting, but
I've watched Steve
You know,
give
the-
about 4 of these meetings,
Well, that's the whole.
and
point,
it's the same.
Larry, the point is, we
Pardon?
don't want to have another meeting where Steve gives a presentation.
I know we are, but it's the same 3 or 4 people show up, and it's been a stall pattern now.
I hear
And
you.
yeah, I agree. We'll have one more meeting, but
Promise
let's
another
make it
meeting.
one more meeting. This has gone on forever.
I agree, but you need to set.
Jessica, what do you think needs to happen at that meeting? What would council like to see? Who needs to present? Who, and then I do want to be cognizant of our time and our hefty schedule here on the agenda. So what needs to happen?
They don't want any presenters. The people who are opposed want a chance to be heard, and they just, every time we call a meeting, from their point of view, it's Steve giving his point of view. And they've never had a chance to give their point of view. So this is a chance for the people opposed to it to be the presenters, to come and have a public forum, a town hall where they can speak and tell you what it is they're opposed to. That's
Okay.
what we're looking for, because
Easy
so
enough.
far, all they've heard is Steve preaching to them, and they want a chance to speak back.
Okay, easy enough.
So.
Not
so-
easy.
do we get to respond to them, you know, at the end of this, or, you know, or,
Well, I mean, their whole point is to come so that they can ask questions. So I would imagine, yes, you could be there to answer their questions if they had any, but it's a
wish-
chance for them to voice their concerns.
I wish
Okay.
they were asking questions today.
Mhm.
I could prepare them.
Should organize it.
Well,
you know?
that's part of
Yeah.
We should organize it.
I will say one thing before we move on, and this is
Huh?
really important.
That's what I thought.
How
is that-
about the people that are against it? They should be organizing this, and we show up.
You know,
How
I
about that?
kind of had that thought too, you know, I'm maybe, yeah, but I don't know who the people are.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to do about it.
Well, they say there's 170, and I've seen 3 to 5 show up at the things every time Steve spoke about it. But also, I'd like to see if any of them even live in the city, the ones they claim out of the 170. But
If people want to give public input about this, doesn't it make more sense for them to be giving the public input to the elected officials? The
yeah,
city council?
it certainly does.
Well,
I don't think that us hearing out, I mean, I'm not even entirely sure how much this should be the charge of whether or not we're having Olympics. I mean, we've got a BlackBerry fire hazard and graffiti all over the place and vandalism. I mean, we just really have really basic things to worry about in our park that we as a body are only making recommendations to the city to try and help improve the park. We're not the Olympic hosting committee or decision-making body. So if the citizens of Gold Hill would like to air out their frustrations and their concerns, ask questions, my thought is that needs to be directed towards the city council. The commissioner, the Parks Commission should absolutely attend.
I think that the Parks Committee / Commission, I'm not even sure which one it is, has grown into a 7-headed monster. And right now, I'm having doubts as to whether I want to continue with it, because it seems like there's a whole lot of talk about protocol and not a whole lot of talk about work. I've been there, done that with the protocol. I'd just like to see things happen.
Yeah,
See, whether it's a meeting or it's a work party, I want to see things happen, you know, cut to the chase.
if I may, I think Paige had it right. I'd like to make a motion that we actually refer this meeting, that it would be organized by those who might oppose it, or that they would at least participate in the organization of it. And although we might show up ourselves. This is directed back in the court of city council. This really is out of our lane, and it is sidetracked us. We spent 5 or 6 days here when we could be getting things done in the park, talking about something that we can't make a decision about. It's not up to us.
I second it. I second it.
We vote on that now.
Everybody in favor?
What is the motion?
The motion is to kick the Whitewater Park back to the council, but you have better things to do.
Simply put, yeah, I like that. I would second it also.
All right,
Yes,
we'll still get this meeting set up and you will all be invited to attend. But yeah, I'll let the council know your decision.
Okay, blackberry removal, riparian restoration, any progress on that?
So I did hear from Tony, and I'm waiting to get some more information from him and Jessica around some information they have for grants on that. Tony has called a couple of times, and he said he had a meeting set up with ODF. I think he was also planning on setting up a meeting with me and him and maybe a couple of city councilors or something he had in mind to start talking about what's next. And so that's kind of where that's at. I would like, since he's already in conversation with ODF, I would like to coordinate with him if we're going to have the Soil and Water Conservation District and oh no, maybe he was already in touch with Fire District 3. Anyway, before we bring everyone to a group meeting, I do want to have another conversation with Tony about what his availability is and have the staff be in on that as well. But as far as I'm concerned, we should start bringing those entities together and finding out what the resources are. And we'll still plan on doing that in conjunction with Tony. That's all I know.
Okay, do you need any help moving this thing forward, or you're kind of track?
Jessica, are you still planning to send me whatever information Tony had?
Tony told me that we have a meeting scheduled with you next Tuesday, I believe. Is that-
First I've heard of it.
Okay, I'll talk with you offline about it. He had a meeting scheduled, so I guess he told me and not you.
Okay,
I'll find out. I'll give you a call about it later. We'll figure out when that is.
okay. Yeah, I'll check my schedule and I told him that later in the afternoon is gonna be best for me, always, so we'll connect.
Okay.
The skate park. What I know is basically we're waiting on better weather because the soil has to be compacted under where the gazebo is going to go. And I guess the can do is moving that along, but it should be
On the skate park also, better weather and dried out. This skate park will start falling apart if we don't get it sealed off. We need to reseal it. And I think all those kids and adults down there skating and stuff, I think if we could show up, maybe through Can Do or whoever, just say we have the product to put on the skate park and seal it up. It should have happened a few years ago, I think, but we don't want those cracks and things to start widening and falling apart. It's a heck of a skate park, according to everybody that uses it down there. They really like it, and it's been very well done. And but I think those kids that show up as a party group, if we had enough, however you put it on, rollers, mops, I don't know, but I know they would show up to preserve, and plus they'd have buy-in. And I don't know if Jan has anything to add to that, because you know a lot more about it than I do.
well, I would be very happy to provide the product. There are at least 20 gallons. I'm not sure how much it would take. And also pizza.
Wow.
But we need
Wow.
to figure out
I'll
a
come
day
for
and
pizza.
stick to it.
What's happening in the Grants Pass skate park is exactly what you're talking about, Larry. There's big cracks and there's rough patches where, it's just getting worn out. And so if we can avoid that major repair by sealing it, I think we should.
This,
Thank you for
I
that,
agree.
Jan.
This is one of the crown jewels at the moment of this park. And it's got, let's face it, we need youth to get involved in stuff in this town and out of town. I don't care. They show up a lot. And this is, they love this skate park. In fact, there was a deal in the paper, a year or two ago, how that was the favorite skate park in all of Southern Oregon. And people stop by that travel the United States going on different skate parks. And I happened to talk to one family that did that. So this is not something that's out of our reach to get done. And like Jan said, a donation of stuff, and we'd be willing to help with donations, whatever, but let's keep that jewel when it's pretty inexpensive on the big picture to get her done, but like I said, we're going to have some dry weather and go ahead. And if the cracks are very small right now, but you can blow them out and get it sealed very well. So I'm done.
So I think so Jan, you're really in for getting the sealer stuff?
Getting what?
Are you for providing sealer? Is that what you said?
Oh, pizza.
Pizza. Oh, okay. All right. And
We need to figure out a couple of dates.
Yeah. Okay.
Or what about
We-
the sealer, Jan?
I can pick up 2 10-gallon things. Actually, I don't know if I can get them in my car, being small.
Maybe
But,
4 or 5 gallon.
No, they're right. You're right. They're about 5 gallons. They're still heavy.
You mean gallons?
Gallons of sealer.
How much is it going to take to do the park? Do you know?
I don't know.
Well, we need to figure that out first, and then we'll have a point to go after X amount of dollars or donations or whatever.
I know that Ken
So-
has $800 for the skate park in the bank.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Well, I would be happy to buy the first 10 gallons.
Okay.
We can get in the middle of that some too. I don't know how much yet, but we'll help out.
And we will too. And so we need to choose a date and figure out how to get some skateboarders to
I'll
actually
just
do-
go up and ask them when it gets close. When you get me a date, and 2 weeks before that, I walk almost every morning, and I'll just go 2 hours later, and there they are, and start getting the word out. And I'll guarantee those kids would show up. They all seem like pretty darn good kids. I don't think they're the ones doing the painting around there,
Oh,
but I know most of them seem to be upstanding people. So
With any
I'm sure
paint
they would
product
do
like
it.
this you're using outdoors, Larry, it's got to be at least 70 degrees. So we can't
Okay.
jump the gun on it. It's got to be probably into April or May before it's going to be warm enough.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, no, I know. I was thinking even June.
Mhm.
Whenever it gets hot, we can get on it, but at least we could be prepared.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
All right.
We will keep focused on this over the next, couple of months, just to make sure that.
Okay.
The other thing, RV Cog, Jessica, what's the guy's name from Peter? Is that?
Peter?
No.
It's Peter?
Yeah, anyway, there's a grant writer at RV Cog who is quite knowledgeable, and we had a meeting with him, and he's interested in writing grants for us.
And what
So
is his name, Steve?
Jessica, help me out,
His name is Peter.
Peter, yeah.
I remember his last name.
Anyway.
Just wondering, because I'm taking notes. Okay,
So, so there, and Tony is, Tony's working with him. There was some talk of trying to apply for one of the large, a state parks grant, but I don't think we're going to do that. I think we don't have enough time, but anyway, Tony's trying to figure out some foundation grants with Peter for parks project. So that's just a heads up on this, and we should be something to be thinking about. And then the Lemon Park project, the city agreed to went along with our suggestion to get the Freshwater Trust to put in that gate to prevent people from going down, out of the existing parking lot and dumping stuff. And Lorraine, it sounds like you saw that there's a barrier going up already. Which
it
sounds
looks
like
to
a-
me like they're doing some work down there. They had falled some trees and they put up a temporary barrier, I'm assuming, with a fallen tree.
Okay. That may be part of the same project, because anyway,
Mhm.
there will be another gate. I think, I haven't talked to Eugene about it yet, but anyway, this Freshwater Trust agreed to put in the gate, and the city has gone along with our recommendation, so.
To cut down on the trash
Right,
dumping.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
they had also indicated their willingness to put up cameras and to s- put in a little trail along there. Are we pursuing that?
Yeah, the trail is, they're going to build the trail as part of their project, and so I think that's going to be very nice. One of the things that I was going to send this around in a note, but anyway, basically Eugene's suggestion is that, well, ODOT owns the land adjacent to the city, which would be a good place to extend a trail if we wanted to. But he also said with ODOT, it's better to just build the trail. I shouldn't say that in a recorded meeting. And, anyway, he didn't really say that, but that may be true. And
Hey,
that's
Steve,
something, yeah.
I don't know if you remember this, but way back in the day, when Donna Silva and well, I'll come up with his name in a minute. Anyway, we had a city council parks committee.
Yeah.
And what we decided was to plant some trees down at Lampman to be a sound barrier and a windbreak between the park and Lampman Road. I was wondering if that's any part of the Freshwater Trust people. Do they have a plan to do that, or do you know?
They've planted a lot of trees, but the trees are all in the riparian zone. They're closer to the
So that's where they're working.
yeah, but some of the trees are up on the top of the bank, so it will serve the same purpose. I think
Well, actually, what I was talking about was on the outside edge of the park to give a sound break and just a better view, to be honest, than looking at the freeway. And we talked about that a long time ago as something we wanted to pursue if we got around to the point of improving Lampman Park, improve the way it looks from the outside too.
Yeah, I think I think that would be a nice idea. The problem is Freshwater Trust won't do it because it's too far from the river. So it's not part of their project. And then we get into the problem of we don't have, we'd have to establish irrigation.
You never know until you ask.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I know that the Freshwater Trust won't do it because that's just too far away. Their money is to shade the river.
Right,
And
but they're putting up a gate, so,
yeah, and that's, I mean, the gate, that's because they see that as protecting their investment.
right.
And so, and building the trail, which will be really nice, I think, along the river is part of their, their tree maintenance project. So we'll get a good trail and a lot of really great native plants and maintenance for years. So I mean, it was a really great deal. But that's, whatever they're going to pay for is going to be directly, basically within 75 feet of the river, just about.
Okay, well, maybe we can approach it in a different way. I think it would be a good idea if we decide to improve on Lampman and make it something we can get some income from, which has been, something we've floated around for a long time, on again, off again. I still think it's a viable idea, especially for RVs. If we could make some improvements and make it such a beautiful place to visit, I do think the well is good. I've said that over and over again. So I'll say it again, the well is good. Just needs to be filtered.
I did ask Eugene about having an RV park there, and I was interested about what his reaction would be. And it's kind of to my surprise, he had no objection to that at all. He thought it was a fine idea, and actually, it certainly it could be a quite profitable thing for the city. The problem is that the people who live on the opposite side of the river, immediately get up in arms because they don't.
Is that the 3 other people that are opposing your Whitewater Park?
But
Good one, Lorraine.
but it's the one thing that is happening is that the freshwater trust trees will be a barrier. So if there was an RV park up on the,
It would be a barrier on the riverside, yes.
they wouldn't see it so much because there'll be all these trees. So that's something that, I mean, as a Parks Commission thing, we have a lot of things to do, but that's the county makes a lot of money.
This might be out of turn, Steve, but do we want to ask for a budget for the Parks Committee? Or do you want to go project by project?
That's not I don't know. That's a good question.
That's a good question. Okay. Well, something we should think about is budget season's coming up.
Larry and I did agree to start kind of sketching out a wish list, and we met by phone and did that. I'm not sure where it landed.
Paige,
Larry?
question for you.
Uh,
You like your trails and stuff, and you've got a lot of expertise in that and flora and fauna. I was wondering if the area at the top end of Lampman, where we walked up through the rocks, and I was saying I could, maybe get a crew in there sometime later to help with rocking some of that area and making that pathway better. Do you think that or the area upstream from the water intake would be better for interpretive signs that teach about the need for watershed and how important it is? I know that was something that we were trying to work into some of these projects. I was wondering if you felt that Lampman would be the best place for that, or if you think that the other side of the park over on this side would be better.
I think the sports park and the beach park are better for that purpose because they're accessible by foot and much more accessible by bike to residents of Gold Hill. I think that Lampman, when we toured there as a commission a month or so ago, 6 weeks ago now, there are a lot of good ideas. And I think that rather than just piecemealing it and trying to figure out this here and maybe this there, that we somehow try to get a master plan around it. If we're going to look at having an RV park there, what is the potential for income? What would the investment need to be put in there for sewer or water or bathrooms or whatever the case may be, curbs, parking, all the costs that would go into doing that would need to be analyzed. We talked about on a much smaller scale, if we, if RV park was 4 or 5 years out, but on a smaller scale, you could look at putting a playground there. You could look at putting a bathroom there. We could look at putting trails there. We talked about putting cameras there. But I think interpretive signs are kind of down on the list, in my mind. And really, they're kind of down on my list in my mind for sports park too, because or beach park, because right now, in the condition that the park is in, it invites vandalism. And we need to fix that first. We need to get a handle on that because all the interpretive signs that are down there are getting spray painted. So why invest hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars in signage that could be damaged with one $5 paint can?
Yeah.
So, my mind is we need to look at the idea of the park host. We need to look at the ideas of gating it at night. We need to look at cameras. We need to look at getting the graffiti out of there promptly. We need to get the blackberries out of there so there's not places for kids to hide. I mean, the other day I was walking in the park and I saw 6, maybe like 13 and 14-year-olds come out of hanging around in the
Water plant. or
the powerhouse. Two
powerhouse.
of them were barefooted. It was freezing cold outside.
I don't know what they do in there.
Well,
You don't want to know.
yeah.
I think you're right.
I mean,
That's why I follow
before
them.
we can talk about that level of improvement, we've got to deal with the problems that we have. Or
Okay, agreed. I just wanted to throw that out there. I know that fits kind of into long range thing, and I think that you're right with having a meeting specifically about that park. I want to second your
Richard?
motion, if that was a motion, that we create something like that or get some kind of a steering committee out there.
well, so my two main points there, if I could get them down to 2 sentences, are: 1, consider doing a master plan for Lampman, and 2, identify and fix the problems at Sports Park and Gold Beach before trying to move on with more development.
I agree.
What I interpreted Richard saying about an interpretive trail wasn't necessarily signage, but we create a trail that would display indigenous plants, would have different informative things, maybe even some small ponds, wetlands. If you have an interpretive trail, it isn't just signage, it's somebody talking to the kids and the people that come visit that trail. And that could maybe be rolled into a park host or a volunteer position. I would like to see more education built into our park system and not by signage. Signage is the least, I don't know. To me, it's just something that it is always going to yellow. It's always going to crack. It's always going to be, graffitied.
Much more simple than that. I've been in other places in the world where there were things where they simply had a post with not anything different than a barcode on it that you scanned with your phone, and it popped up on your phone and told you about what you were looking at. There's newer ways that are a lot less invasive, as well as more informative and less likely to be vandalized, that I think eventually, and that's a long-term thing, we're looking years out there as that would be developed. But I think that somewhere in the master plan, I don't remember if we put that in there, but I know that there's been calls for it. I had a friend who is involved with the Water Conservation Corps or whatever, and he had asked me if I would bring it up, that they maybe wanted someone to discuss the importance of watershed in some way that people could be educated in the park. And that was the reason I brought it up, as I've been asked about it.
Well, I think the trail and the closure of that access road are great for getting the type of activity that we want down there and not having the type of activity that we don't want. But I'll get back to the fact that that's not technically within the city limits of Gold Hill. So my mind, we should be focusing on the ones that are accessible by foot and by bike for people who live in the city. And Lampman could be a really good opportunity for the city to make money, develop that park as a source of income. Let the passersby on the freeway use it, and people who want to drive over there or bike over there or get there however they want, and focus on making our parks that are within the city limits as awesome as they can be.
And
I
that's a
think-
tradition to ride your bike around the loop, which would include going to Lampman Park. It's kind of almost a rite of passage for kids around here.
You know,
Like to see it continued.
I think, you know, I think what Paige said is really important is, one is pretty soon the Lampman is going to be at a sort of a sustainable level in that I think we will have closed off all the easy access for dumping, and a trail will go in, and planting is going in, native planting that's being cared for by somebody else. And then, and we, you know, so that's kind of it's going to be a nice feature. It already is, but I mean, it'll be fixed up and we don't have to spend more time and money on it. I think the only reason to spend, you know, to plan for it is if it's a money-making venture for the city. I mean, if we were really going for if we're going for an RV park, that would support a lot of our other projects. But that also create an enormous, just from discussions years back, that we'll get a lot of pushback from the people who live on the other side of the river. And I don't know that that's a battle we want to start right now.
It's zoned exclusive farm use, Steve, so it is gonna have some pushback. And it may not even be something we could do legally because of the proximity of the river. I just like to see Lampman continue to be improved upon. And whether it's with a bathroom and a drinking fountain or some overnight camping spots, I don't really have a preference. Just keep the ball rolling, keep the grass mowed, you know, put in drinking fountain.
Okay.
Basic stuff like that is what I have my eye on.
So let's move on. Again, there's talk of the library park playground, and I can't remember who all is involved in that, but sort of cleaning up there's a fence around the old playground that there's interest in getting removed because it's kind of, I guess it's ugly, and replacing the sand or something. And anyway,
You wait to do that, please.
that was a project that I wasn't involved in at all, so I'm not.
Hey, I'm in a meeting.
Was that a wish to have that fence taken out? Are they in the process of taking that out, or just looking for clearance to take that out, or?
I was asking that it be taken out because it's an eyesore. And since there's a playground right on the sidewalk practically, it doesn't serve any purpose of corralling kids in anymore. It's in really bad shape and it just basically looks bad.
Okay, yeah, okay, so that's great, thank you. That, because I think, I mean, you're right, there's no reason for that fence to be there. And I think Tony or whatever, there are people who are willing to take it out. It's just,
So can we just recommend that to the city council?
yeah,
Yes.
Why not?
good. Can we have a
We
motion?
have progress here.
Make a motion that we advise the city to go ahead and take out the fence?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Good. All righty,
Progress.
yay. Thanks
Moving
for,
right along.
I knew there was a reason for this, you know, that I couldn't remember how, you know, who brought it up, but that's a good thing.
I couldn't either, but I remember, I think Lorraine was the one, and somehow I passed it on to you, I think, Steve,
Yeah.
but regardless, we'll
Okay.
pass it on to the council.
I got a note from a grant writer who was writing a Travel Oregon grant that's, it was due at noon today. And anyway, she was writing a grant for the Vortex people, but somehow she wanted to include the trails, and was asked if there were any trails we needed funding. And so I talked about the trail that we've talked about on, that up on Nugget Butte. Anyway, I think she was going to include that in her grant.
Wow.
And
Be good.
and she had I mean, we talked about it. She said, well, what happens on that hillside? And I said, well, people collect mushrooms. She said, well, there's actually, it's a culinary trail now, because you can also, it's a walking, biking, and mushroom picking trail. Who would have thought? Donna Silva will be, I don't know if she'll be happy that her mountain is, will be better known. I don't know, but anyway.
So
So
we
there's a,
we do have an opportunity at some point. I have had a meeting with the BLM, the fellow who built the bike park over Valley of the Rogue between Gold Hill and Rogue River. And
yeah.
they are willing to help be part of extending a bike path here. There is one easement that would need to be gained through some private property and a small corner of private property up on Nugget Butte. But what was holding them up from moving forward on it was seeing a commitment and action from the city. So they would definitely need to have the city as partners and some investment
Action from
in
the
that to start a bike trail that would basically start down here across from on 234 and go up the Butte, and then it could connect back to the city. And then he's got a vision to connect it all the way over on public land to Mountain of the Rogue over in Rogue River.
wow.
That was discussed quite heavily when Pete was here. And I can't remember the guy's name that was the artist right next to the gas station. He was heavily involved in that.
Yeah.
And what Paige just said is exactly what they must have talked to someone, because that's kind of how the layout was. And Paige might know more about that than I do, but I'm just going from what I listened to the council talk about that a few times, and that was one of the goals.
There is a trail on the River Road. There's a biking trail that takes off about halfway down River Road before the Catholic Church. And that's very well used. It's occupied almost every time I go by there.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same guy from BLM who did that. And actually, Bob's map is up on the Gold Hill Whitewater Center website, the trail map that he drew of Nugget Butte. So we could, and that again, that's just, it's one of those things that somebody needs to coordinate it, and it would be, I think it could happen really quickly because the BLM wants to do it and the city wants to do it. And there's a lot of money for projects just like that. It's just waiting for
Well, it
somebody.
seems like we get off track on that kind of stuff all the time. It becomes generational instead of moving on it, you know.
And there's there's this meeting tomorrow is about trails just like this. I mean, there's a state parks grant, and actually the people who do those trails came out and looked at it a couple of years ago, so they know about it. It's just writing the grant.
So I'm happy to be part of stuff like that. The woman from Travel Oregon also called me. I got her message this morning. I've been in solid meetings since 9:30 this morning. I've been sitting at my computer talking to people in meetings. I have not had a chance to pick up the phone and call her back. And she's like, it's due today. Likewise with attending a state parks meeting. My calendar for next week is filling up really rapidly, and I just can't take off work and do volunteer work. So if I have a heads up to see opportunities to help, I'm going to need a little more lead time.
Okay. Yeah. Is there anybody who would like to work on that project? You know, that's the problem. We're all so busy. It's kind of it's hard to keep it going. Well, I'll try and get to that meeting tomorrow and see what I can learn. And what the heck? Okay, we have a public input, I think.
I'm not really part of the public, but I'll jump in here because it might be my last chance before we adjourn. I do want to remind you guys that DRP is still in the fundraising process of doing the handicap fishing platform. It is something that because we're only 6 or 7 people, we do need help with when it comes to knowing about these grants, getting the information of who to apply for the grants from, getting that information from you, Paige or Steve or whoever's got the info. And we are still planning on doing a fundraiser on June 12th. It's going to be at the Walkabout Brewery. So it's going to be scaled down from our last not very much money made concert. We're going to try to do it a little bit wiser this time. And we're farming out the advertising and the refreshments to other people. So we're not going to have to go begging for kegs. We're going to go to the place where they make the beer. And we're going to have a concert there on June 12th. And between now and then, our group is trying to get fundraising for the engineering. We take ownership of building the trail and building the fishing platform. We need help with money for engineering, and we need help with permits as far as expertise. And that's where we're standing right now with DRP. Just wanted to let you guys get filled in on that. I consider it part of our mission because it is in the Master Parks Plan and it is an ADA project. So I'm hoping everyone's going to be behind it when it comes into fruition and everybody says, yeah, we'll help. Or at least we'll come to your concert and pay good money to drink, warm beer or something. Anyway, that was my spiel.
Good one.
Okay. Richard, is there any, is there another cleanup date coming up that we could help with you?
I'm just kind of looking at my calendar. I was supposed to leave for Costa Rica yesterday, and we held off for a little bit. Number one, because I thought this was a little bit different meeting we're having today. And number two, there was kind of some more family medical things going on. I will probably have one somewhere in the middle of this month. I just have to coordinate it with some other ongoing projects that I have. I have some wood that I custom milled, and it's being shaped for me to do the interior of a memorial cabin. When I get it, I have 3 days to get it on the wall. And so my whole month revolves around whatever day that guy says he has that wood going. So it's hard for me to set a date yet. I'm supposed to know within a week from him exactly when he's going to have time to get to that. And then I can, volunteer accordingly. I've had more people express the desire to show up once they saw that not many people did this last time. And like I said, I know this is going to take months before I get people to start building up that crowd and people wanting to take care. And I think that in time with good weather, it's going to get there. It's just going to take a little bit of time.
Okay. Well, let us, give us as much notice as you can, and we'll spread the word.
Started a fire down there today. I figured, a nice cold day like this, that I could have got that burned up, and all of our people who stay there in the park a lot during the days could all got nice and warm and dried out. Volunteer a little bit on the cleanup.
Were we able to get the debris out of Beach Park? Is that removed?
It's been too wet. That's just been kind of put on hold until things change a little bit. There was a problem. They got the truck stuck down in there trying to get the dump trailer turned around. And so they had held off, as well as Tony has got a million things going on, and I'm sure that they're wanting to reschedule. I have several people with dump trailers who have expressed desire to show up on a given day, so that we can get a circulatory thing going there where they're coming in.
In the beach.
It's so small and getting down in there, and because they happen to use the bike trail, that you can't get real big equipment down there, like my son's semi truck, that big dump truck, we can't get down there to do work and stuff. So it's just gonna take a little bit of time of keep pecking at that pile and doing it. And pretty soon by spring, it should all be out of there. And at that point, hopefully what isn't is dry enough that we can get some type of a permit, on high ground, have a little community warming fire.
Jessica, have you checked at all on if we can burn down there?
Somebody did.
I believe that we were told we had to be out of the floodplain, and that was one of the situations is in that beach park, everything is below that level for the most part. We'd have to bring the debris out of there, and once you're bringing it out, just
It is.
have to take it somewhere and get rid of it.
Yeah, it's in the floodplain.
Yeah. I've been experimenting, I hauled a huge load of it up to my property, and I've been waiting to see if it's dry enough, I can get it to light off, and I've been using a propane torch on it, and I can't get that shit to burn. So it's still a little bit wet right now. But yeah, there is plans for moving forward on that. It's just been logistically very hard with as wet as it is. And like I
Yeah.
said, I think that the boys have been really busy with their storm drains and stuff. We're at that point of the year where a lot of their attention, because there's only 2 of them, has to be spent on the things that can cause damage to the infrastructure, and they don't have time to be playing in the park, so to speak. Not that it's necessarily playing, but it just is not as high on the priority list as some of the other things that could cause damage to the infrastructure in town.
So, just last note, I think we should all keep in mind, a lot of really good things have happened. I mean,
10 more minutes.
that beach park cleanup is really great. And the taking down the trees by the playground, that was really helpful. And Lampman Park is shaping up thanks to the Freshwater Trust and stuff. I mean, a lot of good stuff is moving forward. And hopefully we'll get the skate park all finished up before summer.
Hey, Steve?
Yeah.
I just want to remind you that Counselor Hinckley was waiting to be heard.
Oh, I didn't.
I didn't know if you could see her or not.
Oh, I couldn't. I that's what I asked before when Lorraine. So what's the, yeah.
Yes, hi. So for those who don't recognize me, it's Max.
I got 10 more minutes.
My name is Counselor Hinckley, and I'm here to address you on behalf of the City Council. We are working on our fire mitigation plans, and I was asked to lead up the project in learning about fire goats and how we might utilize them here in town, as well as finding a contact with a herd that would be willing to come in. I have done.
Fire what? I'm sorry to interrupt. Fire what's?
Fire goats?
Goats.
Go.
Goats.
Yes, goats. I have found a local herd out of Eagle Point. They've worked in Medford, as well as they were attempted to be hired by Central Point last year. They did turn down Central Point's job. What I do have are some price quotes. It would be $1.50 per day per goat, with a herd of 24 goats, if we agree to pre-prep the area for his electric fencing. If we do not agree to pre-prep the area for his electric fencing, it would be $2 per day per goat. If he has to come out and weed whack his own fence clear. Essentially, what we're looking at here is that the absolute max it would cost us for 30 days with a herd of 24 goats would be $1,440 for an entire month of, and that can include poison oak, that can include blackberries. What he would like is a consultation with the council to figure out what kind of plants do we have here? Is there anything dangerous here to his goats? That's one of his primary concerns, as well as whether or not we believe that we can get the volunteers to pre-weed whack for his.
Where'd that go?
We may have run out of time.
I think we did. Good seeing you, Jan.
I'm sorry, I lost
Joe's coming
the
back.
thread.
Oh, there we
Okay.
are.
So we. Counselor, we lost you at anything dangerous to the goats.
Can you hear us?
We see you now.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes and
Yes.
no.
Okay. I'm not sure where you guys
Lost
are.
you at anything dangerous to the goats.
Okay, so what he would like is during the consultation to find out about our local plant life and whether or not there would be anything dangerous to his goats. As well as he would like a square footage estimate of where we would like to utilize these goats for best fire mitigation. And that's where I'm addressing the Parks Committee today, as you guys have done most of the assessments in the area and know a lot more about our parks and where these goats would be best utilized to reduce our fire load in the underbrush.
So you're, just to step back a little bit, so there would be a need to have a temporary electric fence installed to enclose the goat herd for a period of time, and they would eat the blackberries, and then would they move on to another area, or do we just fence in that area for the certain amount of time and then it's good to go?
So he brings his own electric fencing and charger, and he would tell us what the square footage is that he needs in the area that we want cleared, where he would set up his electric fencing temporarily until we move them on to another area. They work in one area until they're done and cleared, and then they move on to a new area where we want them to clear. And we give them the certain amount of square footage and the amount of days that we want to hire them for. So it doesn't have to be for a full 30 days if there's a limited amount that we want cleared.
There's no limit to blackberries.
No. Take them all.
My initial thought is that I have heard that this is a good way to cut them back. In fact, the other day I posted some pictures on Facebook of me removing blackberries on my property, and someone said I need goats. But so in my mind, right off the bat, for the fire hazard and vandal attractant at the sports park would be the area that's close to the starting kind of at the ball field and where the powerhouse is and down. And the reason why I would suggest that area is, one, not only is it really thick and tall there, it's also mostly just blackberries, so they wouldn't be eating down healthy trees that we want to keep or things like that. It's like solid blackberry. There would also probably be the potential to pretty easily put in a fence because it's along the bike path, and then it swoops down into that ravine and comes back up on the path on the opposite side, closer to the river, where you could probably easily put something on either side. But I guess my question there would be, what's the safety provisions and any liability that would be from having an electric fence on a bike path and a walking path?
So what he does have is he has 2 guardian dogs that are kept within the fencing. As far as whether, we put signage up, we do marketing, we let the people know, hey, this area is being cleared by goats. He has never had a problem with safety to people. What he has had a problem with is safety to his goats. And something he has let me know that 2 to 3 times of his fence being torn down and his goats being released is an accident. More than 3 times is deliberate, and at that point, he will have to end the contract with Gold Hill and remove his goats.
That was a question I had. There were goats in the side hill right down by the park there. And actually, within about 1 week, there were 6 different goats killed by a mountain lion here in town.
Which is
Yeah, Cougar got them.
Our liability there is also, it's almost like we're baiting cougars into the park. And you know, Paige had expressed with me and some of the fire clearing that I was trying to do, the need to keep certain indigenous plants that you were concerned about intact. And that would be one of my concerns, because me and you were already trying to negotiate in that category. And
Well, that's why I think that area that's near the behind the shop, the park shop, and directly across from that, that's almost solid blackberry.
It's thick, yeah,
So as
it is.
addressing the concern to the goats, this is something that he has done in the area and is why he has guardian dogs. The guardian dogs will not attack people. They will protect the goats from mountain lions. That is on him. That
So
is
they're all
his
night?
security precautions.
those dogs are there all
Okay.
night.
Yes, the dogs stay there overnight with the goats.
In my mind, it's maybe a reason to get cameras out there on that bike path, but you know, there's a lot of ways to remove blackberries, and I am all for a multifaceted approach, whether it's volunteer days. Tony had mentioned that the Rogue River Parks was using the National Guard. We could get some heavy equipment in there if the fire department has it, but there are so many blackberries that it needs a multi-pronged approach. So I'm open to whatever.
What I'm really looking for right now is somebody that I can work with one-on-one in this consultation with the company, who maybe somebody like you, Paige, that knows those trails, that walks those trails every day, that can better point me to where it is most heavy, where we really need that fire mitigation. So if you and I could work together and set something up with EARN, and then we can go through those trails together.
Okay. That's fine. Yeah, just email me. I walk almost every afternoon. In fact, I usually leave right around now.
I
yeah,
do have one more thing that I would like to offer to this committee. I'm not sure if anyone has told you well. I design and maintain the website. This committee has a dedicated section on that website. And something that I have been wanting to do for the parks since I became a counselor and took over the website was to do interactive maps of our trails, to put up pictures of our parks, to locate those areas like picnic tables and things like that on maps for people who are coming to visit, but also for locals. We do get new people who move here who don't know how to access the river, who don't know where those things in the parks are, who don't know where those bike trails are. And so I would like somebody to potentially work with me to better develop your section of the website.
One thought that comes to mind is the GIS students at SOU. They make maps.
Right,
It might
yeah,
be worth working.
I can do those maps, and
Okay.
I can get the GIS maps. What I'm really looking for is somebody who has lived here a lot longer than I have, who knows those trails that nobody knows about, that haven't been maintained. Somebody that walks those trails every day and can say, this is a good trail for this, and this is a good trail for that. GIS can't tell me the best mushroom picking trails. GIS can't tell me what the terrain is going to be like on which kind of bikes. And that's the kind of in-depth, detailed analysis that I would like to put together for our parks in order to get more people to come here.
I think that's a great idea, and I think that's something that we should put on the agenda for our next meeting. I have a copy of the 2004 Trails Plan that has, I don't know, somewhere around here, and that has a lot of information. Of course, we should be, just figure out what photographs we need, and Richard, better than probably any of us, or Larry, you too. I mean, you guys know the trails here as well as anybody, so.
And as you guys are doing projects, please take pictures. I'd like to highlight what you guys are doing on the website, on your section, to be able to show the community what this committee is doing for them in their parks. So if you're taking down a fence, if you're doing a beach park cleanup, please let me know. I will put an event notification, I will take the pictures, and I will highlight what you've done afterwards.
Oh, good. That's be a good resource, because like I said, I've got a Facebook thing trying to do the same thing.
And I'm not on Facebook, so I never know when you have to.
Well, you know, there is that.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, I have an events calendar. You all are more than welcome to tell me what your events are. I would like to promote what it is that you are doing, because I believe that you're doing a really good job. And I would like to see the community recognize you for what you're doing. And that's
Just at the tip of the iceberg. So thanks for putting that out there for us. I know we'll take advantage of it. We will have some more and more events coming up and opportunities to show what we're doing. So
well, thank you.
folks, we are going to need some financial resources to do some of the stuff we're talking about. So that might be something we want to put on the agenda for next time.
Yes, exactly. And being able to promote that stuff and put it out there on the events calendar and highlight what you're doing really can get some people behind you.
Okay. Wow.
New business, is there a way I can get something on our next agenda?
You need to just let Steve know, he sets the agendas.
Would that be possible, Steve, that I could add something to the agenda for the next meeting?
Yeah, what is it?
I
Or just let-
talked several times, and I just spent some time talking to the mayor as well, in regards to this town has always had I hate to use the term illegal problem with fireworks around New Year's. And as opposed to people just randomly doing fireworks, I was hoping that maybe the Parks Department might be interested in at least looking into what would be involved in having a small, not large, but a small at midnight or sometime fireworks display on New Year's. This kind of takes that, everyone wanting to do it on 4th of July and start a fire thing away, and it's a wet time of the year that people might do that. I'd like to at least have it talked about and see if maybe someone wants to look into what it would cost and whether we could legally do that.
I would be open to looking at more controlled ways of doing the fireworks in the winter. I'm really hoping that the city council is going to explore a way to not have fireworks when it's a declared fire season in the city.
Okay, so
And-
we
and-
really
and
shouldn't be
state.
talking about this because it's not on the agenda. You can talk about it during
Yeah,
the
so
meeting. I will say
we
that
will-
it's already against our code we follow the Oregon fireworks law. The problem is not putting ordinances in place. We have ordinances in place. The problem is getting them enforced because we don't have the manpower to run around town and stop people from shooting fireworks, and the cops are busy everywhere. So anyway, we'll put that on the next agenda, but I just want you to know there's already laws in place. We just don't have the manpower to
Can we
enforce
get the
them.
waiver to the law? Is my question.
All right, guys.
See you next time.
All right, good stuff.
Be good to yourselves.
Bye-bye.